This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 DFFM 95.9 Freeport, New York.
The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB. Live from Merritt, New York, this is SportsTalk 1240.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sports Talk 1240. It is June 24th, 2018, right here in the 9 p.m. hour, the second hour, coming up right after Bill Donahue. And I am your host, Rob Cramer. I'll be taking you through the next hour till 10 p.m. right here on WGBB, and we are live here in New York on a beautiful summer night. But before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody to check out Sports Talk 1240 on Facebook. Go ahead and give us a like, follow us on Twitter at SportsTalk1240, and visit our homepage at SportsTalk1240.com to see who's hosting, to see some great articles, and our library of all of our old shows. Thanks to the guys for having me on again, and thanks to Brian for being behind the glass. I appreciate it. And everybody's great as always. And, there's been a lot happening this weekend with the NBA draft going on Thursday night. We got the NHL draft starting on Friday, and it concluded on Saturday. And but we'll get to that in a little bit. Unfortunately, I'd like to start with a little bit of baseball. And that team that I'd like to start with is the New York Mets. The source of my migraines for at least the last month or two. And the Mets went ahead and dropped the series finale in Citi Field today, 8-7. Justin Turner hit a home run in the 11th inning as another former Met comes back and smacks them when it counts. They've now lost 6 straight games. It's just incredible, the rate at which the free fall is excelling for this New York Mets team right now. I'm stunned on a daily basis. It reminds me, I know it's not as bad, but it reminds me of what I've heard of the 62 Mets with by hook or by crook. They'll go out there and they'll blow the game. They'll figure out a way to lose this game. And, of course, they sucked you in a little bit today. They were ahead. They tied the game after going down 7-4. Plawecki hit the 3-run shot in the 8th inning, put a little jolt in the crowd, a little jolt in, all the Met fans, who have just endured this terrible, terrible, unwatchable stretch of baseball. Like I said, they've lost 6 straight, and since their 11-1 start, they are now 20-43. 20-43. That's a 63-game stretch. That's more than a third of the season. I've never seen anything quite like it. They're the worst team in baseball. It might not be true record-wise because other teams didn't get off to an 11-1 start, but the Mets are a team that are 12 games under 500 that plays like a team that's 20 games under 500, and serious changes need to happen. There's no doubt about it. You need to start having questions and thoughts on direction, and Sandy Alderson needs to be taken at task. He needs to ride off into the sunsets sooner rather than later. Mickey Callaway, has he blown anybody away with his managing, especially in-game managing? And what he says after the game is just insane sometimes. He doesn't hold anybody accountable. I'm so disappointed in what I've seen out of Mickey. And then I want to just turn and say this at a sidebar real quick. Stop talking about trading DeGrom and Syndergaard. It's not going to happen, nor should it happen. And we didn't just sit through a 5-year rebuild to get half of a season in 2015 and a 27-14 stretch in 2016, and then have it blow up the last 2 years and just say, oh, well, let's start over again. Because if you trade those 2 guys, you're starting over again. And your whole point would be to end up with 2 guys like that again. It makes no sense. Don't do it. Don't trade them. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm going to tear my hair out if the Nets continue to talk about it. And if I have to watch one more of these nationally televised games with the buffoons on ESPN or Fox Sports, I'm gonna lose it. Stop talking about trading these guys. It's not gonna happen. Stop it. Why would they trade one of the best pitchers in baseball and Syndergaard, who is a 25-year-old stud that can throw the ball 100 miles an hour? He's seen a couple of injuries the last few years. But why would they trade this guy? It makes no sense. I'm sorry. You know, Jacob deGrom is the type of guy that you build your team around. Prospects, you know, and I hear Met fans compare it to the Yankees across town. Oh, well, they traded Chapman and they got prospects. They traded Andrew Miller and they got prospects. Well, let's break that down real quick because the Yankees had Aaron Judge. The Yankees had Luis Severino. The Yankees had Greg Bird. The Yankees had Andujar. The Yankees had all these guys in place. They traded for Didi. Everything was set up. They had Dylan Betances in the pen already. The Mets don't have any of that. The Mets, it's just one of those things where, they really need to figure out which direction they're going in. And I'm sorry, but that's going to have to be the direction of spending a little bit of money. And it's got to be wise too. I mean, they're not going to. Most likely, they're not going to go out and they're not going to get a Manny Machado. They're not going to go out and get guys like that. But they have to be smart about the money that they spend. Look at the money they spent in the offseason. They spent money on Swarzak. They spent money on Jason Vargas. They spent, and combined, that's over $20 million in salary they have out there right now that is just getting battered around the ballpark. It's insane. I'm at a loss of words when it comes to this team, and I guess that's not good when you're on the radio, but it's, let's face it, it's July. It's not even July yet, and this team is out of it again. Again. You've got to figure it out. You've got a $140 million payroll, which isn't that bad. You've got to get more bang for your buck. And when you've got DeGrom and Syndergaard out there, you build your team around them. Look what we've seen out of Matz the last couple of months. Matz has been one of the best pitchers in baseball since May 1st. He had a really bad April, but he got the job done. He turned it around. He's getting outs. And okay, he got batted around in Colorado. Who didn't get batted around in Colorado? But it's one of those situations where, you've got three pitchers and everything else is going wrong. The bullpen, at this point right now, I would consider trading Jerry's Familia, Asdrubal Cabrera. Jose Reyes. I know he's starting to hit a little bit. You gotta move on. Sentimentally, I'd want to keep him, but other than that, it's just not something that it's not something that the Mets should really be considering. And look what they did early this year. They went out and they made a desperation trade, because they had to waive Harvey. They had to get rid of him. He was terrible. And they got Devin Mesorasko out of it, and he turned it into a really good player. And he's not going to make the All-Star team, and nobody's going to be confusing him with Johnny Bench from the Reds, but he's a solid catcher, and he's better than what they got. And out of their backup today, they got some impressive signs. He had a home run from Plawecki. He threw a runner out, 4 RBIs. But the bottom line is that they've pitched good enough, but they haven't hit good enough. Coming to today, the Mets were 4 for 65. Let me repeat that. 4 for 65 with runners in scoring position. They stranded runners all over the base paths all weekend. It was embarrassing. And they had runners on first and third. And it was getting to the point where guys on the broadcasts, like John Smoltz on Saturday, would just be like, I don't expect them to get it in. I'd be shocked if they did get it in. Then when you move on to today, they had Jerry Blevins start because the immortal Jason Vargas was scratched. Just a disgrace. At least Hansel Robles is gone. That's the only plus that's happened from what I've seen lately. And, like I said, trade Familia. If you're going to trade any of the good pitchers we have, trade Familia, because, I don't know, the shine has come off Familia a little bit for me. I really was starting to get, delusions that he was the Mets, the poor man's version of Mariano Rivera, if you will. And that was in 2015, when the second half of the season he was the best pitcher in baseball. And through the first 2 rounds, he was untouchable. But then in the 2015 World Series, you get that smack in the face of reality where you realize, oh yeah, there's only one Mariano. And his name is Mariano, and he wore pinstripes. And the only time he was ever in Queens was when he was dancing on the Mets' grave. And, like I said earlier, the Mets are 12 games under 500. It doesn't look like it's getting any better anytime soon. And I really don't know what to say. It's a dumpster fire, for lack of a better term, at this point. And I think that they just need to stay. They probably, need a new GM. They probably really need to go in a younger, better direction. There's Paul DePodesta has been talked about as his successor, and other than that, if you want to get a better picture of things, let's look on the other side of town where the New York Yankees play, because the black cloud that follows the Mets. Although, to be honest, that black cloud might have found the Yankees this weekend, but just for one weekend in particular. And the Yankees can take it. They got swept in Tampa Bay, shockingly, this weekend. You can't blame them, though. The Yankees are just coming off a stretch where they played a bunch of really good teams in a row, and the Mets. But that, the Yankees get up for that game because you want to pound the Mets. Everybody does. But, so they're playing a bunch of games in a row that matter, that are intense, and they do great in that stretch. They really were incredible. Concluding with smacking the Mariners this week in a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium. And, including they hit James Paxton pretty well. He settled down, but the Yankees hit James Paxton, who's a very good pitcher, pretty well. And so they go to Tampa Bay this weekend, and they have a hard weekend. Okay, it was a little tough to show up. You can't blame them. But to steal the quote of a legend in New York, Mike Francesa, the Yankees are going into the playoffs on roller skates this year. There's no two ways about it. They're 25 games over 500. They're 50-25. The only team they have in their way is Boston. So either Boston or the Yankees is going to end up in that wild card game, most likely. And it would be a shock if either one of them didn't at this point. And, they're going to have to get back on track. But baseball's a game of streaks. If you have like 3 or 4 really good streaks in a year and play 500 the rest of the season, that's the formula to make the playoffs. That's a 90-win team. Look like like I said earlier, the 2015 Mets were 53-50 when they got Cespedes, and they took off in the second half of the season. The Yankees are much better than that, but the Yankees can stand to have, a little bit of a lull. June has provided a little bit of a lull. I think Yankee fans have overreacted a little bit, calling it a slump even. I mean, come on. Stanton's hitting home runs left and right. Can we stop complaining about Stanton now, too? Please? Please? I had Jay Bruce playing for my team for a lot of this year, and he did not look good. So can we please stop complaining about Giancarlo Stanton? The guy's one of the best players in baseball. I've seen him play day in, day out the last couple of years. Where he plays the Mets, or played the Mets 17 times a season when he was a Marlin. And this is exactly what you get out of him. And then he's going to keep doing this, and at some point in July or August, he's going to go on a tear. He's already on pace to have 40 home runs already. So, you were patient, some of you, and it paid off. Just be happy with that. The guy's not. If you're going to think he's going to hit 300 and drive in, 150 runs, it's not going to happen. Well, it might one year, but I doubt it's going to be this year. And, just be happy with what you got from Giancarlo, because having him backing up Aaron Judge is it's an embarrassment of riches, and it's something that the Yankees really have to take advantage of while they have it. Who knows how they're going to retool in the offseason? Everybody's throwing all kinds of different crazy ideas out there, but whatever. Well, let's get to the game today. And, so the Yankees were down 6-3 early. They erased that deficit. Giancarlo Stanton tied the game to home run in the 8th inning. The bullpen came up big today. They, after, Domingo got smacked early, he got chased 3 innings, 6 runs. The bullpen held it down, man. They really held it down up until Shreve in the, I believe it was the 12th inning, where he coughed it up, and Tampa Bay had a walk-off home run. So you got swept in Tampa Bay. But you got to give credit to the Devil Rays, too, who, for this weekend at least, they were the Devil Rays. They were wearing those 1998 throwback uniforms, which I really enjoyed. I think that was pretty cool, because now they're just the Tampa Bay Rays, but they're the Devil Rays for the weekend. So they've been playing much better, and they had a real ugly start. You got to give them credit, because they've got their record hovering right around 500. They're the first team to sweep the Yankees this year, and they shut them out too. So they're the second team to shut the Yankees out after the Mets. With Seth Lugo, I still can't believe that. They beat Severino. That was a shock. But there's another thing you have to know about this Yankee team. The Yankees started out this year 50-22, meaning that they won 50 of their first 72 games. Now there's a catch to that, because the last time the Yankees did that was their magical 1998 season, where they won 114 regular season games and swept the Padres in the World Series. That's only happened 6 other times in history. Happened in 53, 1939, 1936, 1932, 1928, and 1927. And I bet you can all guess exactly how every one of those years ended, especially 1927, a world championship. The Yankees have won a world championship every single time that they've started a season 50-22. So I'd say it's a very good sign for the Yankees. There's a couple of things they're going to have to do. I've talked about in the past. They're going to have to address their rotation at some point. Sonny Gray is hit or miss at this point. He's a number 5 pitcher, but the Yankees need somebody. Domingo Jimenez, you can't keep running him out there. Even Jordan Montgomery, before he got hurt, was a reliable guy, that reliable lefty you could throw out there. They'll give you 5 innings, 2 runs, whatever, and then you turn it over to the bullpen. But Jimenez is not doing that so much. He's either getting smacked early and getting a little bit of extension out of him, or just getting knocked out altogether. So he's the type of guy that the Yankees are going to have to replace in that rotation, and I believe they will. The Yankees have more than enough to get a deal done of any sort, whether it's going to be a major deal, whether it's going to be another, like an innings eater type guy. But the Yankees need that. You can never look past a guy that's going to get you 150 to 200 innings a year. You can't, because you need that. And so now the Yankees are licking their wounds and making their way back up the East Coast, coming from Tampa Bay. They're going to make a pit stop in Philadelphia this week, starting tomorrow, a 3-game set. A very interesting interleague matchup, because obviously the Yankees have played great, and Philadelphia has been one of the more surprising teams in the National League. Not anymore, but they've hit. They picked up Arrieta in the offseason. He's been great. Jake Arrieta has really set the tone on that pitching staff. His numbers aren't as good as they started out to be. He got knocked around his last start or two. I'd say his numbers over his last 3 or 4 starts probably aren't that great, but he started off good enough to where his numbers still look good, and it's going to be a great pitching matchup, because the highlight of this week is Tuesday night. It'll be Severino and Arrieta at not Bank One Ballpark, at Citizens Bank Park, the other bank in Philadelphia. Beautiful stadium. I really love seeing it there, to be honest. That's one of my favorite stadiums to watch a ball game in. I've been to Philly many times and enjoy it. Probably will catch another game there if the Mets make it worth it this year, but I doubt it. Well, so the Yankees, they got that 3-game set, and they really need to, get out of this little funk. Really, if anything, just to alleviate the pressure of the guys on the bench and the fans and everything. The last thing you want is to be coming home off a really bad stretch. And Yankee fans, the Yankee fans I've talked to, consider what they've seen over the last couple of weeks, where the Yankees are averaging, 3.5 runs a game or so. They're considering it a really bad slump, and I don't know. Didi's getting his average back up there. There's one you got to get, and I like the guy. He's a nice guy, but you got to get Neil Walker off this team. There's no reason that Austin or Drury should be in the minor leagues when Neil Walker's not doing anything in the major leagues, and Yankee fans seem to really not have that big a problem with him. But word is that Drury has been playing first base in AAA. By the way, the Yankees' AAA lineup is definitely better than the Mets' Major League lineup. And that sounds like a joke, but unfortunately it's not. And, when you look at a guy like Brandon Drury, who the Yankees picked up in spring training, and a lot of people thought he was going to start, but Andujar and Gleyber Torres have just been out of this freaking world. And when you have a guy like Brandon Drury, now he's just kind of stuck in between. You really don't know what to do with him. But the fact of the matter is that he should be on this team, and Tyler Austin should probably be on this team too. But they're gonna figure that out. Tyler Austin has a more defined role with the Yankees right now, no matter where he is, than Drury does. And Drury's got to figure that out. And playing first base, making himself more versatile, will definitely help that. And it's definitely not going to look as ugly as Dom Smith playing left field, which that's just such a Mets thing. You draft a first baseman in the first round who you say is one of your best prospects, and now he's playing left field. I mean, come on, guys. What is going on with this minor league operation? And then on the other side of town, the Yankees are just pumping out players left and right. Left and right. They are just a factory over there. They're such a factory that they even have these guys waiting around in the minor leagues that would be starters in the Mets. Better than starters in the Mets. But so is the life of a Mets fan. Well, so we get to the Mets and the Yankees. They both had rough weekends, but the Yankees have brighter days ahead. The Mets most likely do not. And in the second half of the show, though, we're going to be talking about the hockey draft this weekend. It was, I have mixed emotions on it. I'll talk my way through it with the New York Rangers. And the Islanders, I believe, had a very good draft. The Islanders have been doing everything good lately, so we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Knicks, who I really like what the Knicks did. I know you had some of these crazy fans booing when, what do you really even know? What they really wanted Michael Porter Jr. that much? That you're going to boo this guy, Kevin Knox, who, regardless, he's one of the top players in the league. So you're really going to boo this other kid? So that kind of annoyed me. So we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But before all that, we're going to take a quick break, our first break of the day. And thank you for joining us, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Sports Talk 1240 on Long Island's AM 1240. WGBB.
Are you comfortable like that with the mic like that?
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like you got your stuff here and you're talking this way. I'm wondering maybe if you move the mic. No. Maybe more this way. Now if you're streaming yourself to the people who are watching you, it looks like you're talking to them.
That is true.
As opposed to talking away from them.
Talking on the side.
Yeah. I didn't want to say anything right in the middle because it might throw you off.
I appreciate it,
You
man.
did not look comfortable. To me, anyway. Did you kind of feel yourself leaning this way?
I know what you mean. Because I was just trying, I know. But so. You're right.
You learn as you grow.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're doing good, though.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Just to be sure, you're not going to take any phone calls? Just to be sure.
Did they sound angry?
No, actually they didn't, but I wasn't too sure at the last one. He's like, "Oh, this guy's fantastic. Can I get on with him?" I'm like, "Oh, you sound a little weird."
Yeah,
But
I'll probably take him in the future, but today I really want to just
kind of like settle
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Because I was really excited about the NBA and NHL draft.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be getting to that in
Awesome.
the second half.
All
yeah.
right, awesome.
Thank you, man.
You got it. We got about 30 seconds.
No problem.
Actually, we got less than that. More like 15. Stand by.
You're listening to Sports Talk 1240, broadcasting every Sunday night beginning at 8 p.m. right here on Long Island's AM 1240 WGBB, the station that serves your community. And now, back to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us right here on Sports Talk 1240. I am Rob Cramer, and I just want to let you know if you want to follow me on Twitter, you could follow me on @CramerNewYork, @CramerNY, and you can follow me on my other show's Twitter account, which is Coffee with Kramer, and that's COFFEEW, and my last name CRAMER. You can check that out and see all the updates on the upcoming podcasts and every other time that I'm hosting and anything along those lines. But before we get to the second half of the show, I'd like to go into this day in sports history, because June 24th, 1936, Joe DiMaggio becomes the fifth man to homer twice in one inning, and does it in the fifth inning as the Yankees would score 10 runs and outslug the Chicago White Sox 18-11 at Comiskey Park. On this date, June 24th, 1947, Jackie Robinson steals home in the fifth inning of a tie game in Pittsburgh to give the Dodgers a 3-2 lead, and this was the first of his 19 career steals of home. June 24th, 1979, Rickey Henderson debuts in the first half of a doubleheader in Texas, going 2 for 4 and stealing the first base of his Major League career and Major League record, 1,406 steals. On this date, June 24th, 1983, Don Sutton would go the distance, allowing 2 runs while striking out 8 in a 6-2 win over the Cleveland Indians. In doing so, he became just the 8th pitcher all-time to strike out 3,000 batters. And finally, on this date, June 24th, 1995, the New Jersey Devils complete a sweep over the heavily favored Detroit Red Wings as they captured their first ever Stanley Cup in a 5-2 win in New Jersey. Hard to believe that was 23 years ago. Martin Brodor's first of 3 cups. Well, now with that, we'd like to turn the page over to the drafts this weekend. It was a lot of fun checking out the draft. The NBA makes a real spectacle of it, and the Knicks went out there and made there was a lot of rumor and innuendo that they were going to go out and make a deal to get up to number 4th pick, or figure something out with to move up or make some kind of deal to get out of the spot they were in, basically. Well, that didn't end up happening. The Knicks brass, they get their first shot at a draft with in a post Phil Jackson world, because if you remember, even though he was let go immediately following the draft last year, he was the one that pulled the trigger on drafting Frank Ntilikina. And a lot of people suspect that Ntilikina and the question marks surrounding him was a big reason why people just decided to pull the plug on the whole Phil Jackson experiment to begin with. So that could have been his final dagger. But I do like that the Knicks went at number 9 and they selected Kevin Knox. He's a freshman out of an 18-year-old kid. He's 6'9", from Tampa Bay, Florida. He played 1 year at Kentucky, 37 games. He averaged 15.6 per game. Now look, a lot of Knicks fans were not happy. They wanted the kid from Villanova. They wanted Porter. They wanted supposedly, I guess they wanted anybody but Kevin Knox. I don't know how you could knock this kid when you don't really know that much about him. He only had 1 year there. He's very young, very raw. He's a big kid with, like I said, raw talent. He's got a huge upside. And I love that he actually has college experience, United States college experience. The last couple of guys the Knicks have picked. Look at Porzingis. He was a professional, but in Latvia, and he translated well to the NBA. You had Frank Ntilikina. He was a professional in France, and that didn't really translate so well. And now they go out and they pick this kid, Kevin Knox, who I like the fact that he's an American kid that played in our collegiate system, because those kind of kids always tend to come a little more polished. That's why if it was me, I would have been looking a little bit more at Mikal Bridges, who fell to the Sixers and was later traded after that, the pick immediately following the Knicks. But, he can shoot the heck out of the ball. He shoots threes. He's a good defender, and he was on Villanova, so he's got a couple of rings to boot. But, to be honest, I'm very, very happy with Knox. You don't know what you have in him, even if you think you do. Fizdale supposedly is very high on the kid, and there's a reason why if you're still hung up on Michael Porter Jr. and I'm not here to tell you that Porter's going to be a bad player, because frankly I don't think he is. I think he's going to be a good player, but there are a lot of rumors coming out right now saying that Porter may not even play a game this year for the team that drafted him, Denver. And there's a reason why he fell 5 spots. There's a lot of question marks about his health, his hip, his back. And, could you imagine how the Knicks would be getting killed right now if they'd taken a player that might miss this whole season? They'd be in big trouble, man. I'm telling you right now, Knicks fans would not be letting them off the hook too easy. And I think Knicks fans can forgive and forget if this kid Knox goes out there and starts playing some good ball. And if you see that, it's really going to give you faith in a guy like Scott Perry running this organization. And it's going to give you faith that maybe Fizdale has that magic touch, that maybe he's got there's a reason why he is liked so much around the league. And let's see, let's give him a chance. It's not what we've seen in the past. It's not these ridiculous regimes that just bumble and fumble and get everything wrong yet. Let's give them a little bit of leash. Let's see how they do. And I'm more than happy to admit when I'm wrong. And in this case, I hope I don't have to. I have a little bit of faith in that front office for some unknown reason, and let's see. And another reason why I do like what I see is they got Mitchell Robinson in the second round, the 36th pick. That's the pick they got in the Carmelo trade. And he's a 7-foot center, big wingspan, and he's one of the more unknown players in this draft. He was one of the top-rated high school prospects coming out of last season. He was supposed to be a freshman in college last September and play, I think it was Western Kentucky that he was supposed to play with. And something just fell through. He ended up not going, and he just decided to stay home and work out and prepare for the draft this year. And, you'd think for a lot of players that would lead to them not getting drafted. But this guy had the talent. He got picked. And supposedly the Knicks weren't the only guys that were eyeing him. People thought he was going to fall a little bit later, and the Knicks knew they had their pick. They didn't let it go, and they picked him up right away. I like that. That's showing a little bit of conviction. That's showing a little bit that the Knicks have a plan in mind. And that's more than you can say for the last however many years. To be, honest about it. You have to look at it and say the Knicks have not had a plan. The last couple of years, there's been a semblance of a plan, I guess you could say, where they're trying to get young. They're not trading first-round picks, which I like. I like that they're trying a lot of guys out this year. They found that kid Trae Young this season, and it's going to be. It's still a process. It's still working, and we still have to see what we have. But with this kid Mitchell Robinson and this kid Kevin Knox, the Knicks are committed right now, and you got to be happy with that. A lot of people have called him the steal of the draft, Mitchell Robinson. Well, that remains to be seen. Either way, I like his potential. Like I said, I like the Knicks taking a chance. and it's something that makes you happy with the Knicks' convictions. Let's see what we got now. Now free agency starts on the 1st. Let's see where they take it from there. Kyle O'Quinn opted out, unfortunately. He played a good role on the team. I would have, even if I didn't have plans for him this year, I would have liked for him to opt in so he could be a trade piece. That's another attractive thing about Enes Kanter. I'm a big fan of Enes. In a perfect world, I would love for them to work something out and to bring him back this year. I like his passion. I like how he's a fighter. I like how he doesn't take any crap on the court or anything. He's a good dude, and he's a good guy in the locker room too. That's the kind of guy you need. And 18 million or whatever it is, it's close to that. It's a bit much. So we'll see. Maybe he'll opt in, and the Knicks will use him for a trade piece. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just have that cap room, and they can figure something out through free agency. But one more guy I want to touch on, too, with the Knicks is that the Knicks picked up Alonzo Trier, an undrafted guy out of Arizona, freshman season, 6'5", good player. Can go back and forth between forward and guard, looks like. And, he's a guy that went undrafted because he failed 2 PED tests. Now, you'd think, too, that, okay, maybe a drug test, maybe like some kind of recreational drug, you can understand that. But for failing a PED test twice, that raises a lot of question marks. Now, I actually like the fact that they went out on, a ledge and signed this kid. I actually like it a lot because you never know. This could be a kid that just went wayward, and he failed PED tests twice in college, but the second time the ban was lifted because they said that it was still just remnants in his system from when he failed the first time. So a little fluky, a little weird, a little kabuki going on, but let's see. I like it. I like the way that they worked it out, and the Knicks are giving this kid a second chance, and if this kid is smart, he will take this chance and run with it. There's a couple of kids that did that for the Knicks last year. That Trey Burke, I said Trey Young earlier, but he was the draft prospect. But Trey Burke is the guy I was thinking of too. He was the guy the Knicks just gave a chance this season, and he is a former first-round pick, and he worked his butt off for it, and he really got himself into shape and started becoming a really productive player on a team that didn't have, much around him. He was kind of doing it by himself, especially after Porzingis went down. So that's something that you have to keep in mind with the Knicks. I like Fizdale. I like I like Scott Perry, and I like the direction in which they're going. Not trading first-round picks. They'll probably be a lottery team again next season. Even if you hear me say over the summer after they sign a couple of guys or make a trade or something, even if I start getting drunk with the, drunk on Knicks positivity, don't believe me. They're probably not making the playoffs, and they're probably going to be a lottery team. But that's not the worst thing. Porzingis is on the way back. He's an animal. He's working out like a crazy man, and just keep that in mind, and just keep your eye on the prize. I mean, you never know. Odds are that LeBron and KD are not coming to the Garden, and I'd love to think so. But it is a possibility that next season you keep your options open. You add another first-round pick, so you have Knox, Porzingis, Ntilikina. Next year's first, maybe you add Mr. Kyrie Irving, who supposedly has interest in becoming a Knick. I wouldn't mind that. It's taking him from the Celtics. But, that remains to be seen. That's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. And it's just buckle your seatbelts, Knick fans, because the next year should be very interesting in the development of this team. And speaking of developing teams, we'll turn our attention to the NHL portion of this program. And that's probably what we're going to run out, too, because I got a little bit to say about the Rangers, a little bit to say about the Islanders, and nothing to say about the Devils. And it's New York, people. I'm sorry. That's why I don't talk about the Nets either, because they're still New Jersey. But even though they're not, but they are. Okay, let's see. The New York Rangers, they hired the new coach David Quinn. This is the first shot that he had at a draft. And, he and GM Jeff Gordon had 10 draft picks to work with. The first round they had 3. They had the number 9 overall pick, the 22, which they traded up for, and the number 28 pick. With those picks, they chose number 9, this Russian kid, Vitaly Kravtsov, right winger, 18, 6'3", 180 pounds. He's a KHL Rookie of the Year. Now, kid's got a lot of talent. No doubt about it. A lot of Ranger fans were not happy about it, though, and understandably so. I myself was let down by it. I don't want to say, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this kid is not going to be a future All-Star. This kid could end up being the next Kuznetsov. He could end up being the next Ovechkin. You never know. This kid could be one of the next greats. I'm not going to tell you he's not, but you're going to have to wait a little while to see it. He's still signed for another year on a KHL contract, and so you're definitely not seeing him in the 18-19 season. Maybe you see him in the 19-20 season, but that's being optimistic, to be quite honest. And so at the very, so you're probably not going to see this guy in a blue shirt for another 2 to 3 years. So, when the Rangers pass on a guy who I've heard referred to as an American goal-scoring machine in Oliver Wahlstrom, it's going to make a lot of fans angry. And I can understand it. I can sympathize with it. I can even feel it myself a little bit. But you have to take a step back and say to yourself, let's just hope that Jeff Gordon and Chris Drury and the decision makers that we have in place have a plan, and they stick to it. And I don't understand how signing Shattenkirk to big money last year, makes that case. I don't understand how your 36-year-old Hall of Fame goalie would be okay with just playing with a bunch of 18 and 20-year-old kids this year. I don't think that's going to be the case either, but I don't understand. They picked Vitaly Kravtsov. Then at 22 they picked Keandre Miller, I'm sorry. And then at 28 they picked Niles Lundqvist. No relation. It's spelled differently. It's got a K, not a Q. But so they 2 other defensemen, an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. I like them both. They both got a little bit of size. One's an American, one's a Swedish, and I think they got good value for their picks. But the speculation coming in was leading a lot of Ranger fans, including myself, to believe that one of those late first-round picks would be used in a package of some sort to acquire a player that was going to affect the team this season. That did not materialize. For whatever reason, throughout the draft, they picked 6 defensemen, 3 forwards, and 1 goalie. They used a second-round pick in the goalie too, which I don't know. I didn't quite understand that. But the guy they picked was Ulf Lindbom, also out of Sweden, and word on the street is that Rangers goalie coach, who has been referred to as a goalie whisperer, he's so good, Benoit Allaire, loves this kid. So, the Rangers are stocking up their system right now. They got a bunch of kids that are waiting in the wings. You got Georgiev. You got the kid over in the KHL right now. They got Igor Shestyorkin. Say that 3 times fast. And, they got a bunch of kids. Now you add this kid Lindbom into there. It's gonna make for some interesting competition in Lundqvist's later years. No doubt about it. And, like I said earlier, it seems like they made the commitment to rebuild now. The Knicks and the Rangers seem to be on a very similar path at this point. And, I don't know if that's a comforting thought, to be quite honest. But, when the Rangers did not acquire a roster player in this year's draft. Now you turn your attention to July 1st. What's going to happen now? You've got a bunch of guys, a bunch of restricted free agents. You got a couple of unrestricted free agents. You're going to have to get a deal done for Kevin Hayes. You're going to have to decide on Spooner and the other guy you got from the Lightning. There's going to be a lot of decisions to be made right now. Do you trade their rights? Can you even get anything right now since there's only a couple of days left of a negotiating window? If you do trade their rights, there's a lot of decisions to be made. I still don't understand how Mark Stahl is still on this team. I mean, I get you don't, even Gordon said you don't want to have a bunch of 18, 20-year-old kids playing. You have to have somebody that can show them the way to play. But the fact of the matter is, Mark Stahl is just eating up cap space, and he's on the wrong side of 30, and he's not getting any better. And to be honest, I saw him get beat time and time again over the last couple of years. So, might be time to move on. But, and also there's another thing I want to highlight. That I, much like a bunch of Ranger fans, was just more familiar with Oliver Wahlstrom and Dobson that the two guys the Islanders ironically chose instead of guys like Kravtsov and Miller or Lundqvist. That I was just not familiar with those guys really. So you have to play the waiting game, and I know the waiting game sucks, and I know you want to play hungry hippos, but it's just not in the cards right now. You have to take what the Rangers gave you and move on. There's nothing you can do. You have to just hope for the best. It seems to me that like the Islanders, had the better, the end of draft or whatever. But that's something that most people won't be able to tell for at least 5 years to know, which guys are the studs of the draft and which guys are not. It's going to take a little while. These guys are all very, very young. And, one thing I do want to say, too, about those young kids is that Keandre Miller, I like this guy a lot. He's an offensive defenseman. He said he's only played defense for 2 full seasons. He's still learning, and he will get better. No doubt about it. He played forward. He said that because the Rangers drafted so many defensemen that there were concern that they might not have enough forwards to actually play full-on scrimmages. But that's not going to be the case, as the Rangers released their training camp thing, and they have a bunch of guys coming, including guys like Howden and Hobject they got for, in all the trades, and Lindstrom, and they got a bunch of guys coming in, a bunch of prospects. It's going to be one of the most interesting prospect camps that I've seen in a couple of years, including Hedel and Anderson. The first-round picks from last year are going to be in this, too. So I do like that a lot, no doubt about it. And also Lundqvist, the other first-round pick they had, the defenseman from Sweden, he played in the Swedish Elite League the last couple of years. And he's only a 17, 18-year-old kid. So that bodes really, really well. That shows a maturity level you need. That shows the ability to play in the professional league with men. It's a big difference when you're playing like Keandre Miller. He was playing in the under 18, the U18s for Team USA. Very good, absolutely. And it's going to be really great to see what he does. And now that he's also committed to Michigan, so we're going to see. But even when he plays at Michigan, he's still playing against kids. This guy Lundqvist has already played against men in the Swedish Elite League. So it's something that you just need to keep your eye on when it comes to the development of this player and how long it'll take him, because it'll probably take Lundqvist a shorter amount of time to be ready than Miller, even though they're the same age. And with that, I like to flip to the other team, which I haven't really covered too much, but they've done so great that even I, a New York Rangers fan who has no love for the New York Islanders, really have to just tip my cap to the decision makers with the New York Islanders. And at one point, I really was convinced that John Tavares was leaving the Islanders for greener pastures. But you know what? greener pastures might just be here already, my friend, as the Islanders have corrected a lot of past mistakes over the last month by hiring Lou Lamoriello to take over as the head honcho over at with the New York Islanders and the new owners and everything. And his first order of business was to just pick up the guy who won the Stanley Cup. No big deal. The Washington Capitals head coach Barry Trotz came right in and shocked me, absolutely shocked me, when I couldn't believe that he wasn't returning to Washington to begin with. And then when the team that he bolted, he decides to go to the New York Islanders. It sounds like fiction. It doesn't make sense, but you got to tip your cap. The Islanders played their cards right. They got the man that they apparently wanted, that Lou Lamoriello had his eyes on. And, they had a good draft, like I mentioned earlier. They drafted, like I said, they called him an American goal-scoring machine, forward Oliver Wahlstrom, number 11. They also had the number 12 pick, where they drafted the Canadian defenseman Noah Dobson, number 12. Both guys I would have liked to see the Ranger draft, to be quite honest. And it seems like very, very good picks by the Islanders. But, like I said earlier as well, you have to give them time to develop. The Islanders picked up 4 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie with their 8 picks. And they're heading in the right direction. Everybody loves Lou Lamoriello, I'm sorry. Even people that don't like hockey, like Mike Francesa. And everybody loves Lou Lamoriello. In fact, Bobby Valentine, the former manager of the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox and Texas Rangers, he's one of the good guys in the game, Bobby V. Even he says that Lou Lamoriello's impact in his life was one of the most important people that he ever came across, which is kind of surprising. You'd expect Lou to have a bigger impact on a guy playing hockey, but that just shows the kind of guy that Lou is. And it just shows what a good hire it was by the New York Islanders. Now, like I said earlier, the last move, the piece de resistance that the Islanders need to do right now is bring back John Tavares. You gotta find a way to bring this guy back. He's your franchise player. They're saying it's going to cost somewhere around 8 years, $100 million. Well, you know what? If that's the case, that's a bargain, man. Rumors going around right now that he's going to meet with 5 other teams aside from the New York Islanders. Those 5 teams reportedly have been the Dallas Stars, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the San Jose Sharks, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. This is one of those things where even though the Islanders, conventional wisdom around the league is saying that this guy is going to sign with the Islanders. He's going to go back there. But this has to worry you a little bit that he's even sitting down and talking to other teams. And you have to worry, too, about the fact that one of the rumors I heard is that the max contract a team can offer for one player for, per average salary would be $15.6 million for one season based on the cap rules. Well, one of the rumors that I heard coming out of Toronto with Brendan Shanahan and Mike Babcock over there, 2 other guys who have who really turned around a franchise. Word is that those guys are looking to offer a 1-year contract for the league-high $15.6 million. He'd be the first guy in the NHL to get a max contract like that, and he'd only be locked in for 1 season. So even, and the Maple Leafs are much closer to a Stanley Cup than the Islanders, so that does have to worry you a little bit. But I don't know. To see him do that, I don't know. I don't think Tavares is that kind of guy. As a Ranger fan, I would have loved to see him at least take a meeting with the Rangers. But he's such a loyal guy that he looks like he's not even sitting down and talking to the Rangers, because if he stays in the New York area, it's probably going to be with the New York Islanders. And you can't blame the guy for that. So, if you want to, give me a follow on Twitter or anything, follow me at Cramer New York, CramerNY. I have a lot of opinions. If you like them, I'd like to hear them. Just give me a follow. Also, you can follow my account, my Twitter account for my other show. It's a podcast now too, but it's also available on this network at times. Hopefully, I get it back on. That's at Coffee with Cramer, COFFEEW. My last name CRAMER. So if you like what you've heard, please check me out. I really appreciate it, and you know, thank you for joining me here tonight. This has been great being back here. I love it, and even though it killed me tonight to say a lot of good things about the New York Islanders, they've definitely deserved it, my friends. And Islander fans, celebrate because you deserve it. And thank you for joining me here tonight. Thank you, everybody over at Farmingdale State University, for listening again. And thank you for my family. And thank you, Brian, behind the glass. And thanks for joining me again. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.
The views expressed in the previous program did not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240